What's up YouTube, and welcome to another draw along with me. Today's design is this porthole where we've got this beautiful brushed metal design around the outside here. If you're new here, I post tutorials every week, so if you'd like a weekly tutorial to follow along with Procreate, hit that subscribe button down below and turn on the bell so you're notified when I post my new videos. As always, there's a link in the description so you can follow along with the exact same palette that I'm using in this design. You don't need any other brushes other than the ones that are in Procreate when you first download it. And as always, if you liked the video, be sure to give it a like down below. It helps the channel out an awful lot and also sends my videos out to more users. So I'd really appreciate that if you could hit that like button down below. And with all that said, let's get into it. So we're going to go up to the plus icon and we're going to create a new canvas, and we're going to go for 2500 by 2500 and our DPI set to 300. Now what we want to do is go to our layers and we want to go to the background color, and from our palette we want to select this one here on the third row, the second one in, like so, which is this sort of burnt orange brown color. So what we're going to do is we're going to get started on the circular shapes for the initial structure of the porthole, and then we'll go in and add the correct colors and shading as we go. So to start with, we're going to go to our color picker and we're going to double tap in the top left hand corner to select white, and then we're going to go to our brush library and we're going to select under calligraphy the monoline option. Now it doesn't matter what size your brush is for this, we're just going to simply draw a circle on our canvas. Make sure we meet up to where we started, and if you hold your pen in position you'll get an ellipse, and if you pop your finger on the screen you'll get a perfect circle, and you want to go for something roughly around about that size there. And then what we're going to do is just drag our colour in to fill the circle. Now I just want to make sure it's perfectly in the centre, so I'm going to go to my cursor icon. I'm going to make sure snapping is turned on, which it is. I should be able to drag it into the middle where I'll see the vertical orange line to let me know it's perfectly in the middle, and I also want the horizontal line as well, and we are smack bang in the middle of our canvas. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go to our layers, we're going to swipe this layer to the left hand side and select duplicate, and on the bottom one out of the two we're going to tap on that and we're going to select the option of invert. Now for the minute we're going to use black and white so we can clearly see our shapes, and then we'll progress with the colours. So we're just going to go to our cursor icon, and with uniform selected it will keep the ratio of the circle, and we can just scale that up a little bit. Let me make that a little bit smaller, and what we're aiming for here is again smack bang in the middle of the canvas, and we're just aiming for this small trim around the outside like so, and then we're going to repeat the process again. So we're going to swipe this layer of the black circle now to the left and hit duplicate. And now the bottom one out the two, we're going to tap on that and invert again so we can clearly see it against the black. We're going to go to our cursor icon and we're going to just make this circle bigger. Now this one needs to be slightly bigger, as this is the flat surface of the design where we're going to put the little nuts and bolts as well. So maybe slightly bigger than that again, and we should end up with roughly something along the lines of that. And then we're going to do the same again. So let's swipe this layer to the left. We're going to go duplicate. And at the bottom one, we're going to tap on that and use the option of invert. We're going to go to our cursor again. And again, we want to just create the same sort of gap as we did here for the black circle edge there. So we're just going to scale that up and drag that into position. And let's see, let's just scale mine down ever so slightly, just so we end up with the same sort of thickness as the other one that we created. Again, I'm going to have to go slightly smaller until I end up with something like that, where roughly this black circle now looks the same as the black one there. So roughly around about that size is fine. And then finally we're going to swipe this one to the left again and we're going to go duplicate, tap on that and use the option of invert, and we're going to grab our cursor, and then this is the final one. And this is the final one where we'll just scale that out, and roughly the same sort of thickness as this white gap here would be perfect. And let's position that roughly, let's get a little bit bigger. Something along the lines of that is fine. So now we've got all of our layers built up. Now this doesn't look like much at the moment, but once we start to add in all the colors and the shading, you'll understand what we're looking at. Essentially, this middle white circle is the view out of the window. This is the upper part of the porthole, and then this is the surrounding piece of metal on the wall. Now what we need to do is we need to adjust this white circle here on the end of my pen here to add in the extra little bit here for the handle, and that's the only adjustment we need to make. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our canvas, and we're going to go to the settings, canvas, drawing guide, and we're going to go to edit drawing guide. And what we want is the symmetry to go horizontally. So we're going to tap on options, and we're going to select the option of horizontal. Now what this will do is pop that line on the screen, and it means if you draw on the top half, it'll also draw on the bottom half. Now what I'm aiming to do here is just simply get a nice perfect reflection so that we don't over proportion it on one side or the bottom side. So now we're going to go to our layers. Now this one here will show as assisted, but we want to actually turn that off. So let's turn that one off, drawing assist, because that's the very base layer. And what I want to do for the meantime, just so I can see what I'm drawing, is I'm going to turn that layer off momentarily. And we want to come up to this white circle here, the middle one, and tap on that and turn on drawing assist. And then we're going to continue with the monoline brush under calligraphy that we used previously to draw our circles. Now this time, let's see what brush size we're going to use. Let's go roughly 10% to start with. Let's go to this layer, and what we're going to do is I'm going to zoom in. Essentially, we're just going to draw a slightly off flat part here, and hold your pen on the screen, you get a perfectly straight line, and we can then adjust the angle, but it will stay nice and straight. And roughly something around about that is ideal, such as that. And then all we want to do is simply link that back up, and if you pop your finger on the screen, you get a perfectly vertical line, and then it should match up to where we started. And then what we want to do is just drag and drop the color in like so, and then we've got our little space for our handle. Now we obviously want to reflect the change in shape in the black layer as well underneath, so that it all matches up nicely. And what we want to do is go to our layers and then go to the one underneath, which is the black rim around the end that we want to change. And we want to also turn on the drawing assist for that. And let's go to our colors and then double tap at the bottom to select black. And we're just going to repeat the process. So we're just going to match up our lines to the one that we just drew. So something like that. You can go slightly above, as you can see, and then you can grab your point and then go perfectly straight down. Put your finger on the screen, and you should get a nice straight edge like that. I'm just going to thicken mine up ever so slightly because mine wasn't the matching thickness. That's good with me. And now we've got our little space for our little handle. And now what we can do is we can go back to our layers, and we can go to the base layer, and we can just double check that you've got a little bit of a gap here, like I've got, just so that it matches up to the rest of the design, like so. And the final shape that we want to create is then the hinge on this left-hand side for the window itself. In a similar fashion, we're going to go to our layers. We're going to go to the very top layer this time though, and we're going to create a new layer. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to the select option. We're going to select the option of rectangle, and we're going to make sure color fill is turned on. And what we're going to be able to do there is we're just going to be able to draw a rectangle on the screen, such as that. And that will allow us to go to our cursor icon then and position that in the center of the design. Now that's the entire shape for that particular item. We're going to go to our layers. We're going to swipe it to the left, and then we get duplicate. And then we're going to tap on that and use the option of invert. And then grab your cursor again and the freeform tool, and just drag it down so it's roughly just shy of half its own height, and then position that in the middle like so. Now we've got our hinge on the right. Now we've got our hinge on the left hand side. We can add in the shapes now for the handle again on this right hand side. So with our layers, you could keep them organized at this point. You could swipe these two layers together and hit the option group, and that is our handle, and that is our hinge mechanism on the left hand side. You can see if I turn it on and off, it will group the two together and do the same action on both. So I'm going to group that together just to keep it nice and organized. And then I'm going to go to my top circle, I'm going to create a new layer. Now here I'm going to want to draw in the initial base circle for the handle. So we're going to draw a circle and then pop your finger on the screen to create a perfect circle. And let's scale that to roughly that size there. So I'll just position mine correctly so you can see it needs to hit that horizontal line. Keeping the drawing assist on actually aids with that ever so slightly. That's good with me. I'm going to drag and drop my color in, and that's the base. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my layers. I'm going to create a new layer. Now at this point I'm just going to swipe these two. So swiping this other layer to the right hand side and hit group. And then we have grouped together everything that we're about to do for the handle. And then I'm going to go to my colors. I'm going to double tap and select white. Just again so we can differentiate the colors from one another. And I'm going to draw a circle again. Hold my pen and then put my finger on the screen to create a perfect circle. And you want to go roughly something around about that mark there. And then drag and drop your color in. And that's the tip of the handle. And again, just position that so it's perfectly in the middle of that initial black circle we created. And the final parts we want to do is create the little handles. Now for this, I'm just going to grab any color. I'm going to choose a slightly off red or orange color, just so I can see the additional shape, because if we drew in white here, you wouldn't be able to see it against obviously the other parts that are in white. So I'm going to create a new layer underneath the white circle that we just drew, but above the black one. And from here, I'm going to draw another circle, a little bit smaller again. Pop your finger on the screen to create a perfect circle. Something roughly around about that size is good. And then drag and drop your color in like so. And if I zoom in, what we're going to do is we're just going to draw two lines. So hold your pen at the end to draw a perfectly straight line. And again, we're going to draw another line here as well. Just so that they go up right up to the edge there on the right and left hand side. And then we're just going to link our shape up at the bottom here, and then you can either paint it in or drag and drop your colour in. And so that's one half of our handle. I'm just going to position that so the angle matches correctly. And then what I'm going to do, once you've done this one, you can simply go to that layer, swipe it to the left and hit duplicate. And then we're going to go to our cursor, and we're going to go to rotate 45 degrees until we get the opposite angle, like that, and then drag that into position until you're roughly matching up to the other handle on the other side, like so. And then when we zoom out with two fingers, we've got the shapes for the handle as well as the hinge. And the final things we need to draw in shape wise is our little bolts that we're going to put all the way around the design. Now for here, you want to go to your settings. You want to edit the drawing guide that we just added for symmetry, and we want to change that now to the radial option. So we get more lines, which will mean that we'll repeat the design in more places across the design. And then we want to go to our layers, and we can just add a new layer above the initial highest white circle. And then on the new layer that we've got here that we just created, we're going to go to drawing assist and turn that on, and now that layer will use the radial drawing assist that we just added. Now what you're going to do is zoom right in on the very top edge here, and what you're going to want to do is draw a circle, pop your finger on the screen, and then you want to draw a circle roughly around about that size there. So you can get an idea for the height between these two, and drag and drop your color in. And that's good with me. And if we zoom out, you can see the radial design has actually added it in 1, 2, and 3. Now technically it's added one here, but we can't see it, and we won't see it because it's hidden underneath our handle. So if you've done your layers as I have underneath the handle, you won't see that additional one. And what we also want to do now is do the same, but on this line here, which we'll then do on the other lines as well. So we're going to zoom in, we're going to simply draw a circle. Hold your finger on the screen as well as your pen, and then just create your bolt roughly that sort of size, and then drop your color in like so. And when we zoom out, we've got all of our little bolts around the edge. So that's the initial part of the design where we're getting all of our shapes into place, ready for all the colors and all the shading, all the textures that we're going to add in to the design. So now what we'll do is we will work on the layers and make our way backwards all the way through the larger circles, just as we did at the beginning, and we'll fill in each one with its correct color. So let's start with this black edge here. Now this one, when we go to our layers, we need to find the correct layer for it. So this one here, the white circle, is our window, so we can ignore that one for the minute, and it's this one here that we want. You can just turn it on and off just to double check where it is. And what we want to do is we want to tap on that and select the option of alpha lock to start with, and then we want to go to our colors in our palette, and we want to select this color here on the second row, the far one on the left hand side. And all we want to do is simply drag and drop that onto the canvas, and that will fill that initial piece with the correct color. And while we're here, we're going to add in the initial shading on this one. Now, this one actually only takes a highlight. So we're going to go to our colors, and we're going to select this color here, so second row, and the second one in from the left hand side. And we're going to go to our brush library, and we're going to select the option of airbrushing and soft airbrush. And we want to make this brush really small, probably about 2% should do it. And what we want to do is we want to tap on this layer and select the option of drawing assist, which will then use that drawing assist that we've put on the screen. Now what this will do is, just to very quickly show you, you can see at the top of my screen, the yellow that I'm drawing in is also being reflected as I go around. Now what this will do is it will just speed up our initial highlights. And all you want to do is we want to just highlight this edge here, and we're going to start in the middle and then make our way down like so. And don't worry if you make a gap, you can just go back in and carry on from where you took your pen off, like I did. And then we've got the initial highlight with inside that ring there, like so. And that layer is actually done with now. We can progress on from that one, but that one there has now had its highlight added. So what we want to do is, looking at our layers, we want to go to the next one down, which is the white layer here, which is underneath all of our little bolts. And we want to repeat the process to an extent. We want to tap on that layer and create an alpha lock. And then what we want to do is go to our colors, and we want to select this second color on the second row in from the left hand side. And if you tapped on that layer, you should be able to drag and drop your color in like so, and you'll fill that in with the slightly darker color. Now while we are here, we're going to add in all the highlights and shading on this particular layer, and then we're going to progress on and continue that for all the other layers outside of it. Now this one here, in case your layer doesn't have it, make sure the drawing assist is on, as we just mentioned, but make sure you've got assisted turned on. Should already have it from where we used it previously. And we want to go to our brush library, and under painting we want to find the brush called dry brush, which is this one here. And then with our drawing assist on, it will mean that we can shade and highlight this in one go, in again one quadrant, and it will repeat across the rest. So we're going to go to our colors, and these two colors here on the right hand side, the second row, are going to be our main highlights as well as our shadows. So we're going to grab the darker color out of the two here first, and we're going to look at our brush size to be roughly around about 8 or 9% for this one. And then looking at the design, that should work out nicely. So what we're going to do is we're just going to, in a circular motion, so you've got to really sort of arch your sort of wrist, and I tend to pivot on the outside of my hand here, and then I tend to go like that. But you'll need to maybe put your iPad on a flat surface if you're not already. We're just going to follow the motion of the circle and then just add in some texture with this brush. Now this brush is great because if you press really hard you'll get a lot of texture, but we only just want to start off lightly, and you see this drawing assist is awesome, it adds it all the way around. And we just want to start off lightly, and then, you know, maybe we can build it up ever so slightly. So we'll add in some darker sections like that. And then we've got a nice sort of brushed look to the sort of metal, which looks very realistic, nice and sharp. And I just want to add in a slightly darker edge on the right hand side here. So you can see I'm practically drawing a like solid line almost, but just to give it that little bit of contrast from the the other section inside of it. Now what we then want to do is go to our colors, and we want to grab the highlight color, so the second row and the second one in from the right hand side. Now what I want to do is I want to create a second layer for my highlights. So I'm going to go to my layers, I'm going to tap on the plus icon, and I'm going to tap on the new layer that we just created and use the option of clipping mask. And I also want to tap on that and turn on the drawing assist. And the way that brush works is if you were to paint on the layer you just worked on, because it's meant to replicate paint, it would smudge our shadows that we added, but we don't really want to do that. So I just want to start drawing on this new layer in the same sort of fashion, in a circular motion on top of our original shadows, and then just adding in those extra highlights like that. And again, this just adds to the nice effect that we've got with the brushed sort of colors to it. Now when I zoom in, I can see that we could probably get away with adding a little bit more of a brighter highlight in here. So I'm just going to really press quite hard on this edge and really punch out some more color just on this outer edge here. Like so. And then that will nicely repeat all the way around. And again, you can just draw in one quadrant, it will do it in all of them. But something along those lines is nice. And that works for me. I've got a nice bit of dark colour in there for the brushed look to it, as well as I've got my nice colour on the inside as well. Now the only other thing we need to be aware of is this extra piece over here. So we could just add in some extra texture in here as well, like so. And then maybe even go into our shadows. So go back to your colour picker and select the darker colour, which was the second row on the far right, and go back to the original layer that we were working on for our shadows, and just add in some little bits in here, like so. And then just on that outer edge, just darken that up a tiny bit more, because the light coming through the window may well not hit this side, like that. That's cool with me. And now we can move on to the outer layer again one more. So we're going to look at our layers, and we're going to look at the one that we worked on, which is this dark one underneath. So we're going to tap on that and turn it on and off. We're going to tap on it and use the option of alpha lock, which will mean that we can't drop the colour in outside of it. And we're going to go to our colours, and again this colour here on the second row, the first colour, I'm going to tap on that and then drag and drop that onto the screen. Now what we want to do with this one is we just want to change the colours of it and really punch out some highlights on it. So we're going to go to our layer again, and from on that layer we're going to go to our colours. We're going to grab our highlight colour again, so second row, far right hand side, second one in. We're going to go to our brush library and continue to use the dry brush, and we will do for all of this texture work. And we're going to zoom in, and again let's just make sure our layer is drawing assisted, which it is, meaning we can draw in one quadrant and it will draw it in all of it. And we're just adding in some highlight in that ring, like so. And I'm really trying to punch out the inner side of it a little bit more, so it's super nice and bright on that inner edge. So if I zoom right in, you can see the colour is mainly on the inside rather than the outside. And then when we zoom out, we're already starting to get a nice build up of our colours. And now while we're here, we can work on the bolts as well for this one, so that we can then progress onto the very outer edge. So let's go to our layers, let's go back up our layers and find the dots in an array around in a circular style, and turn it on and off just to be sure it's the right one. And again, let's tap on that and use the option of alpha lock. And then we're going to grab the correct colour for this, which was this colour here on the second row, the fifth colour in from the left. And then with that one, we can just simply tap on that layer and select the option of fill, and we'll get the correct colour. And then what we're going to do is we're going to create a new layer for our shadows and highlights. So we're going to create a new one. We're going to tap on it and select clipping mask, so we can only draw within the boundaries of the bolt itself. And we're going to tap on that and select drawing assist. And then let's zoom in on the very top one here, and we're going to go to our colors, and we're going to add our highlight color first, which is the second row and the second one in from the right. And we're going to go to our airbrush, and you should already have it at the correct size, which is roughly around about that 2% mark. And what we want to do is just in a back and forward motion, color this bottom edge here. Now the very edge of it needs to be relatively bright, then you can press lightly and then add that extra bit towards the top. And then if I zoom in, we just want to just do the tip of the top of the bolt like so, something just like that, so it's not as big as what we painted in at the bottom here. And then if we go to our colors and we select our shading color, so the color on the far right of the second row, we just want to paint the right and left side of the bolt, and then making our way in until we create some sort of shape like that. So we've painted the very edge relatively dark and then came in ever so slightly to the middle line, and I could maybe just darken up that edge a little bit more and maybe even add more of a dark look to the top of the bolt, such as that. And now what I want to do is I just want to go to my highlight color again one more time, so the second row and the second one in from the right. But now I want to go to my brushes and go back to the painting section and use the dry brush, and just from left to right just add in some texture into the bolt. Now what this will do is it'll just break up the very soft lines that we've drawn in there and just give a bit more texture to the bolt. So I've went a little bit sideways and a little bit up and down as well, just on the edge. And then if I zoom out, we can see our bolt here has got the correct look to it for the meantime in terms of its texture. And because of the way that the drawing assist works, we've just got to go in and add that into this bolt here as well, and it will do the 4 on the diagonal. So let's just go in and repeat that process again. So what you want to do is go to your brush library and go back to the airbrush. We should already have our highlights color selected. So it should just be a matter of just brushing this edge here for a little bit, and then the very edge of it can be nice and bold with its highlight color. And then again, just the outer edge of the top of the bolt is fine like that. And then let's go to our shading color, so far right on the second row, and then just shade in that outer edge coming inside on the back side of the bolt, like so. And then we'll go to our brush library and we'll go back to painting, and let's go back to our highlight color, and let's just paint in some texture like so. That's enough for me. And then when we zoom out with 2 fingers, all of our bolts have been shaded in and have our highlights and a little bit of texture on them. Now what we want to do is let's work on the next layer down. So let's go to the very bottom white circle that we've got remaining, and let's drag in the correct color for this one. So let's go to our colors and let's select this color here on the second row, the 5th one in, and let's go back to our layer and just drag and drop that in like so. Now what we want to do is also add in the little bit of texture in here, but what we'll do prior to that is add the shadow that this will create, this initial layer above it, just so we can get an idea where we should highlight and where we should shadow. So let's go to our layers, and if we turn this one on and off just above what we were just working on, this is the layer that we want to duplicate and create a shadow from. So what we'll do is we'll just swipe this one to the left hand side and select duplicate, and it will also be alpha locked and drawing assisted, etc. But what we'll do is we'll go to our colors and let's select our shading color, which is this one here on the right hand side of the second row. And what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our layers. I'm going to tap on it and select fill. Now what it should have done is it will have filled that layer in completely in that dark color. Now we're going to tap on it and turn off the alpha lock. Then we're going to go to our adjustments, Gaussian blur and layer, and swipe that from left to right, and you'll see the progress bar at the top of how much percentage you're putting in. And roughly, let's do something around about that mark there. So 20% I've got on my screen here. And then you can tap on adjustments when you're done. And that already gives a really nice sense of depth to this design, and you can get a real idea that this is the upper layer out of the two. And then what we want to do is just add the texture into this layer, as well as any highlights in there. So let's go to our layers again. Let's go back down to the bottom layer. Let's turn on alpha lock and turn it on and off just so you're on the correct layer. And then continue with our shading color and go to your brushes and the dry brush. And then what we need to make sure is, let's go to our layers and let's turn on the drawing assist. And then if we zoom in, let's just paint in that circular motion, following the curvature of the design. And you can add a lot more if you want to press quite hard in the shadowed area as well, like so. Now bear in mind, if you're not happy with the radial design assist, you know, where it's reflecting quite a bit like that, by all means turn it off and then go all the way around the entire design. It saves me a bit of time on the tutorial, and a lot of the time if I zoom out, you know, you can't really see a lot of the things that you might see while you're painting it in. But ultimately you can go in and just continue to go all the way around as you wish, and then fill in each individual section with, you know, its own individual shadow, its own individual texture. But for the sake of a YouTube video, it's a lot easier just to add in the drawing assist. So now when I zoom out, I've got a nice little bit of texture all the way around. And what I could also do is go in and add in some highlights as well. So go to colors and select the second one in on the second row. And I'm just going to create a new layer because, again, as I mentioned about the painting, we don't want to smudge our shaded lines in there too much. So I'm going to tap on that new layer and make sure it's a clipping mask, and also tap on it and make sure it's a drawing assist as well. And zoom in again and just add some little bit of light texture on the outer edge here, something like that. Maybe press a bit harder towards the outer edge till we get like a bit of a solid line out there. It always looks good with metal, that sort of metal brush look, because metal typically has that sort of brushed outer edge. And we zoom out with 2 fingers and we've got our nice texture for the window outer rim. So now what we can do is we'll go over to the left hand side now. We'll work on this hinge quickly. So let's go to our layers and let's scroll through until we find that group that we created for it. If you didn't create a group, you should just have these 2 layers that we created. And all we're going to do is fill them in with the correct colour, add in the shade in. So we're going to tap on this layer here and we're going to tap a new layer. And we're going to tap on the initial full rectangle. We're going to fill this in with the correct colour. So let's go to our colours and select the colour on the second row, the third one in. And you should be able to drag and drop your colour in like so. And then let's go to the white layer and let's fill that in with the correct colour. So let's go to our colours and select the first colour on the second row and drag and drop that in. And you should ever so slightly see a bit of a contrast between the two. And what we're going to do is we're going to continue with our painting under our dry brush, and we're just going to add in the highlights and the shadows again with the same 2 colours. So let's do our shadows first. So second row far right. And then on the longer rectangle, let's start with that one. We're going to tap on that layer and select the option of alpha lock, so we can't paint outside of it. And we could turn on the drawing assist, and let's reduce our brush size back down to roughly 5%. And we want to go in vertical strokes here, up and down the design. Now again, because we've got the drawing assist on, you only need to really paint in the bottom half and it will reflect nicely in the top half. And what we're aiming to do is to just fill in that middle part of the hinge. Something roughly around about that works good. And I've left the outer edges because we're going to go to our colors again. We're going to select the highlight color, so second row far right, second in. Let's create a new layer again so we don't smudge that paint too much. I'm going to tap on that new layer and select the option of drawing assist and also clipping mask. And let's just paint that highlight in on the right hand side edge here, like so, and that should start to really give it that nice 3D look to it. And let's also add in a small highlight on the outer edge, like so. But let's bring that highlight a bit further in. So it's roughly something along those lines there. Now what we could also do is let's go to our brush library and select the option of airbrushing. And your brush size, which we used already before, should be roughly down to around about that 2% mark. And let's go back to our shading color, so second row far right. Let's just add in a little bit of a shadow underneath that, like so. And likewise, let's maybe just add in a little shadow towards the bottom edge as well. I'm pressing very lightly there, because as always, if you press lightly and build up the color, you can really start to get that perfect balance. If you go straight in too hard, you end up with something like that, where it's a bit too hard on that edge. And then I'm just highlighting a little bit of a shadow on the far right edge there, just where it wraps around the metal. And let's just try that on the far left as well. And maybe let's just add in a tiny bit of a darker area in the middle there, just to add in some more punch. And let's go to our layers now then, and let's work on this rectangle here now. Now let's tap on that layer and use the option of alpha lock. I'm not going to use the drawing assist for this one because it's only a small piece. We can easily get our design in there correctly. So let's go to our brush library and revert back to our painting brush, so the dry brush, and we should already have our shading color still selected. And then making sure we're on the correct layer, we're just going to paint up and down on the far left hand side first, adding more color there, and then fading out towards the middle, and maybe not any at all towards the right, but something roughly around about that mark will do. Something like that is fine with me. And let's go to our colors and then change it to a highlight color again. So we're using these two quite a bit. So second layer, far right hand side, second one in. And as before, let's create a new layer above that and use the option of clipping mask. And let's just paint that edge in like so. Pressing a little bit firmer towards the right hand edge like that. And then add in a little bit on this left hand side too. Something roughly around about those marks. It's pretty good. And let's go back to our airbrush and soft brush, and let's just add in a little highlight here on this bottom edge, like so, and likewise the top edge as well. And what that does is just creates more of an illusion that that's a 3D object. And then when we pinch out with two fingers, we've got our hinge on the left hand side all textured in. Now the only thing I want to also do here is just add a little bit of a shadow, so that this layer here of this circle is just casting a shadow out there as well. So let's go to this group, or if you didn't make a group, simply swipe on all four of the layers that we just created, and let's just, with our cursor icon, just drag it slightly towards the right hand side so we get less of a gap there. And then what we want to do is, on this layer here that we just added those little highlight textures, we're also going to add in the shadow on top of that. So we're going to go to our colors and select our shading color. So just to reiterate, we've got the shape here. We created that new layer with all the white texture, sorry, the light texture. And then we're on that layer, we're going to add in a little bit of a shadow just here in a circular sort of motion again, just to show that that's casting a little bit of a shadow on there. So we added all the highlights in the correct places, and rightly so, but we just added that extra shadow in just to really make that feel part of that design. And let's go over to the right hand side now, and let's work on our handle. Now what we want to do is just go to our layers, and again, if you created a group correctly, you should have all of them nicely grouped in there, and we can fill them in now with the correct colors and use the same shading sort of techniques as well. So let's work on this top circle here, the white one first. Let's go to our colors Let's go to the first color on the second row. Let's drag and drop that into there. And we're only going to use the airbrush for this one. The handle itself wouldn't have as much texture as the rest. So we're going to go to our layer and tap on it and select the option of alpha lock. And then we're going to go to our colors again and select our highlight color and our shadow color afterwards. So let's select the highlights first. And what we want to do is paint in just the same as we did with the bolt, the left hand side of the bolt. Like so, and then ever so slightly the back edge as well. And then let's grab our shadow color and let's do the same thing we did before. Now you'll notice I haven't got the drawing assist on, so I'm gonna have to do the left hand side, well, the top edge and the bottom edge one by one. That's no problem. So something roughly around about that mark there is cool. And let's just add a little circular shadow in there as well. Now I've got this little bump in the middle, which is fine with me. Adds in a little bit more texture to it. It's fine with me. And then we're gonna move on to the two little handles as well, top and bottom. So let's work on the next one down and repeat the process essentially. The same as we've just done with that, we're gonna do with this handle here. So let's turn it on and off, make sure it's the correct one. We're gonna go to our colors and select the first color on the second row. I'm gonna drag and drop that color in like so. And then let's revert back to our highlights color. So second row, second one in from the right hand side. Let's go to our layer and just double check that we've turned on alpha lock. If we haven't, let's just turn that on. And we're just gonna paint that left hand edge here like so, rounding towards the base of the handle. So again, you create this one slightly bigger, and then this one you just create a small little highlight like that. And maybe you could punch out this edge here if you wanted to. And then just the same, we're going to go to our color picker and we're going to select our shadow color on the second row far right. And we're just going to add in a little bit of a darker edge on the top here, but not getting too close to our little highlight we created on the right hand side there. And then we should have a nice shaded in handle like so. And now what we're going to do is just repeat that process for this top edge here as well. So let's go back to our handles. Let's turn on alpha lock on the other one. Let's go to our colors and select the first color on the second row. And just drag and drop that in like so. Let's revert to our highlight color, which is this one here on the right hand side of the second row. And continue with the soft airbrush. We're just going to paint that left hand edge again. A slightly bigger highlight and making sure the edge is nice and bright. And then this edge here, you can go in quite quickly and add in one sort of solid sort of highlight to that edge there. And let's revert to our shadow brush color. And let's just add in that darker section here as well. And now we've got our two handles shaded in. We can move on to the very base there as well. So let's go to that layer, which is the dark circle here. And kind of similar process, we're going to go to that layer and turn on the alpha lock. We're going to go to our colors and we're going to select, let's select this fifth color on the second row. Drag and drop that color in like so. Now I've done that on purpose just so we get a slightly darker color to the base layer of the other ones. And all I did with this one is I went to my highlight color again, so second row, second one in from the right. And with the soft brush, just painted that left hand edge until I got a nice bold line like so. And then just very lightly bring that color in a bit more like that. And then what we can do is go to our color picker and select our shadowing color, so second row far right, and then we can just paint in the opposite side basically in the same fashion. So we're just painting in that shadow edge here like that. Now what we also have to bear in mind is we need to create a shadow coming off of this as well. So what I did was I just created some sort of lines pivoting out from the centerpiece like so. And then what we can do is we can go to our layers and we can go down a few layers until we hit this one here, which is this layer here. So if I turn it on and off, you can see. And then when we go onto that layer, I can just repeat those lines outwards like so, just so that the correct shadow is cast onto the metal. So we've got the lines coming off here and then they go onto the metal as well. And then if we go back up our layers and collapse our group down and pinch out with 2 fingers, we've got our handle added in there with a little bit of a shadow as well. Now the only other thing we need to do is we just need to add a quick shadow into behind these bolts just to make them stand off from the background. So we're going to go to our layers and we're going to find that layer, which is this one here. You can see it from your layer preview, the little dots on the screen. Just turn it on and off to be sure. And then we're going to create a layer underneath it. So let's go to the white circle and create a new layer. And then on that layer, we're going to turn on the drawing assist so we get the shadow on all of them. And let's zoom in and let's just, with the soft airbrush still selected, we're just shading in that left hand edge like so. And what that does is that really brings out that nice bright edge that we created here and really makes it pop. And then what we can do is just go around to the other one as well above it. You only need to do it twice because of the drawing assist, and then just add in a little shadow such as that one more time. And now we've added shadows all the way around our little bolts on the edge there. So now what we can do is we just need to add in the texture in the very background. So let's go to our layers and let's scroll all the way down, and then when we get to the very bottom layer, let's just create a new one and then drag that layer underneath until it's just above our background color. And for this, we're going to go to our colors and we're going to double tap and select black. And we're going to go to our brush library and we're going to select the option of textures. And then there should be an option called wood a little bit further down. And brush size should be all the way up to the max. And what we're going to do is we're just going to paint lightly from left to right, and you'll see some of the lines come in like so. You want to make sure your whole design is pretty much consistent. And then you can start to sort of darken up a little bit more towards the center, I would say. So like in a circular motion here, we can really punch out the wood like so. That works for me. Now the only thing I didn't like about adding this wood is it's vertical. So the only thing I like to do is just go to the cursor and then tap on rotate 45 degrees twice. And then we'll get the nice horizontal lines in there for our wood. And with that, in the circular motion, we also add in a little bit of a shadow. So if you weren't happy with it, and once you've rotated, just double tap with 2 fingers until you go back to it being vertical. And then you could just go in and maybe add in a little bit of a darker shadow in here, just to be sure. Like so. And then again, just repeat that process, rotate 45 degrees twice. And then we've got our nice horizontal boat wood. And what I like about that is it fades out towards the outer edge, which means that we've got a lot of focus on the center of the design. Now all we've got to do is simply add in what we want to add within the window itself. So we're going to go to our layers and we're going to find this layer, and it's this one here, the white one. That's the only one remaining. So we're going to create a new layer above it. I'm going to tap on that and select clipping mask. And now I do want to group these two together, so I'm going to swipe this one to the left as well, the white circle, and select group. It just makes it nice and easy with all your layers, just sometimes to group them together. And on this layer, I want to tap on that and select the option of drawing assist. And with the black still selected, we can go to our brush library and we can select the option of airbrushing and the soft brush. And let's make that a little bit bigger, roughly 6%. And what I'm going to do is simply just draw in around the outer edge, like so. So essentially we get this like sort of outer shadow, and it's quite faint and you don't want to make it too dark, but we've just got a little bit of a shadow, which just makes that glass look a little bit more realistic and not so flat. And then from there, we can go ahead now and start to add our design into this. So let's go to our layer here, layer 1. Let's create a new layer above that. And with our brush, let's go to the calligraphy option and the monoline option. And your brush size can be any size for this one. But what we're going to do is we're going to go to our colors. I'm going to go up to these two colours here at the top. So we're going to select this colour here first, the one in the top left. And we're going to draw a line roughly slightly lower than halfway across. And then hold your pen at the end and you'll get a perfectly straight line. But if you pop your finger on the screen, you'll also get a perfectly horizontal line. And then let go like so. And then all you want to do, just like all my other tutorials, is link up your shape from start to finish and go outside of the boundary. So you just always link up to where you started, and then you should be able to drag and drop your colour in like so. And now we've got our water for the design as well. And what we can now do is let's go to our layers and we can change the white initial circle to the very background colour of the sky. So let's go to our colours and let's select this colour here in the top right of the first row. So this is the base layer for our sky. I'm going to drag and drop that onto the screen. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to our brushes. We're going to select airbrushing and continue with the soft brush, but let's make it bigger. Let's go to roughly, how big is that? 30%. So my brush size ended up at roughly 25%. And let's go back to our colours and let's fill in our sky with these two here. So let's select this one here, which is the second one in from the right on the first row. And then go to our layers and then make sure that this original circle has been turned on with the alpha lock option, so we can't paint outside of it. And then we're going to swipe from left to right until we make our way up towards the center of the design, leaving a little bit of that darker edge if you wanted to, or simply, you know, go all the way to the edge. And then we've got a nice little gradient there. And let's go to our colors and select this color here, the third one in from the right on the first row, and then just paint in that sort of sunset skyline towards the bottom there. Now, if you're ever unhappy with your gradient, it's not smooth enough or soft enough, simply go to your adjustment and select Gaussian blur and select the layer option and swipe from left to right, and you should be able to blur all those colors in together like so. And that's our sky set in place. And now what we want to do is add in our sunset in the background. So we're going to go to our layers and create a new layer underneath the sea but above our sky. And then we're going to zoom in and go to your color picker and double tap in the top left to select white. And then go to your brush library and under calligraphy, use the option of monoline. And from here we just want to draw a perfect circle on the screen. Hold your pen at the end and pop your finger on the screen. And roughly something around about that is good. Drag and drop your colour in and then use your cursor just to position that with the orange line straight down the middle. And what we can do here is we can just get that nice ever growing sort of glow from the sun. So what you do is you swipe this one to the left and select the option of duplicate. The one underneath at the two, simply go to your layer options under normal here and just drop that down to roughly around about 10%. And then you grab your cursor and with the uniform option selected, simply just drag that and make it bigger than what you initially created. Now position it so you get the orange line down the middle but the blue line straight through the middle of the sun. And then you can go to your layer again, swipe that one to the left, and again with the bottom one out of the two, you don't need to change the opacity this time, just simply grab your cursor with uniform and then drag that and make it bigger. Now this always looks best when you scale up roughly the same gap every single time. And then we can do a third one. We'll go to our layers, swipe that to the left and select duplicate. Let's go to the very bottom one and then just drag that out and make that slightly bigger and then position that where we need it. I can go a little bit bigger than that one on mine, like so. And now we've got that nice little sunset, sort of sun radiating in the background. Now the only thing I'm going to do is simply merge all those layers together by pinching them like so. And I'm actually going to fill that in with a different colour. So I'm going to go to alpha lock and I'm going to go to my colours and I'm going to grab my highlight colour and I'm going to go to my layers and I'm going to tap on that layer now and select fill. And now we get a nice yellow sun in the background there. And now what we want to do is we want to go to our layers. We want to swipe this one to the left, our little sunset that we created. And what we want to do is we want to move it above our sea layer, but what we want to do is we want to mask it just to the shape of the sea itself. So let's tap on the sea layer, which is the blue one, and let's use the option of select. Now, if you get this fill in with bright yellow, the color fill option is still turned on like mine. You can simply turn that off. And then let's go to our sunset that we created above the sea layer, and let's just tap on that and select the option of mask. Now what that will do, if we tap on our select to undo that, we've now masked the additional sunset just to the space of the sea, meaning what we can do is now is we can smudge that out and it won't affect the one above it. So let's go to our layers. Make sure you're on the actual layer, not the mask of our new sunset. And you want to go to smudge, and you want to select the dry brush as well. And let's make that roughly about that 22% mark. And then back to our layer, let's just turn off the alpha lock. And now with our smudge tool, we can go from left to right and just the whole way down, and it will create a nice sort of illusion that that sun is just glistening on the sea like so. And now what we want to do is just shade in the sea as well towards the bottom edge, just like we did with the sky. So let's go to that sea layer, let's tap on that and select the option of alpha lock. Let's go back to our colors and select the slightly darker blue here. And then let's go to our brushes, select airbrushing, and under the soft brush, we want to just make that again similar size to what we had before. Around about that 25% mark, just smudge from left to right, sort of painting in that darker sea. And what you want to do is just end up with that blue edge towards the sunset, but this down here is nice and a little bit darker than the top there. And again, if you're not particularly happy with it and how your smudge worked out, no bother. As long as you've got alpha lock turned on, which we do, you can go to your adjustments and Gaussian blur that layer from left to right, and you'll get a nice smooth transition between the colours. And so let's go to our layers now and add in the final touch of the boat. So let's create a new layer. Let's go to our layers and let's select a slightly darker blue. Now I'll add this to the palette, so let's add that in here. And what you do for this one is using the monoline brush under calligraphy. Let's make our brush size roughly 3 or 4%. And let's zoom in. Start off with a horizontal line and put your finger on the screen once you've got a perfectly straight line. And then all you do again is just simply draw another horizontal line above that, where the front of the boat slightly comes out compared to the rear. And then you simply just match up those lines, so just draw them in. And then you just draw in the front as well. Drag and drop your colour in. You're at the base of your boat. Just create a new layer just for the sails now, just in case you want to reposition them. And you start off by drawing a straight line down the middle, and put your finger on the screen so you've got a perfectly straight line and it's perfectly straight down the canvas. Then you can see where I go from the start point outwards roughly to there. Again, put your finger on the screen to get a perfectly horizontal line, so you should have a perfectly right angle here. Now what you can do is just start from the top of your mast and go all the way down to the bottom. If you hold your pen on the screen, it will then sharpen that line up and create an arc. And then we've got a nice little sail, which we can drag and colour into like so. And then we could also go to our layers. We could swipe that layer to the left and duplicate it. And if we went to our cursor and we flipped it horizontally and then scaled it down with the uniform option and just position that roughly like that, we've got our two little sails for our boat. And then what we can do is, with this colour still selected, we could go back down to our sea layer and we could go to our brush library and let's go back to painting. Our dry brush selected, and just add in a little bit of a shadow underneath it like so. And now we've got our minimalistic little boat on the sea. And now the final touch we want to add is just a nice reflective glass look to the glass itself. So let's go to our layers, and our boat here that we created, well, first of all we want to pinch those layers together so we get one layer for the boat. And then we want to also drag that boat layer just underneath our shadowed outer circle still, because then the final touch we want to add is that light source, but we want to put it in the right place, which is just above our boat but underneath our sort of darker outside ring here. And all we're going to do is go to our colors. I'm going to double tap in the top left hand corner to select white. We're going to go to our brush library and go to painting, and we're going to scroll through our brushes until we find the option here of Salamanca. And with this one selected, it's roughly set to 80% and 55% in terms of size. You can just draw a straight line across the screen and hold your pen at the end. And then again, we can do another one towards the bottom edge here. Hold your pen on the screen to get a perfectly straight line. And another one just close to that edge here. And again, hold your pen. And then what you can do is just lower the opacity down of those even more, just until you get a nice streak across the screen, but it's not too bright and too distracting. And let's go to my actions here and my canvas and turn off the drawing assist, because we are now finished with this beautiful design of this porthole. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. It's a little bit of a longer one, but we added in a lot of textures and worked with them throughout the design, as well as highlights and shadows as we went. If you liked the video, please drop a like down below. It helps the channel out an awful lot and I'd really appreciate it. And if you're new here, I post tutorials every week, so if you'd like a weekly tutorial to follow along with, hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell so you're notified about my new videos. And as always, make sure to share your designs with me on Instagram. I love seeing that you guys have completed the designs and managed to get from start to finish, and that my instructions were actually clear enough. If you're not already following me, my links to my TikTok and my Instagram are in the descriptions down below. So I hope you had fun, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.